In the last video, we showed several copies of our image detail inside of the image screen. So now we want to customize each of these different image details and show some slightly different content. Remember, to do so, we're going to pass a props object from the image screen down to the image detail. Let's figure out how we do that. All right, so I'm back inside of my image_screen.js file. Inside of here, I'm going to find each of those different image detail elements. So I've got 4 inside of here right now. I'm going to add in a prop to the first one right here. I'm going to make up a prop name off the top of my head. Remember, on just about all those other primitive elements we've used so far, we've had props like title or onPress. Those were all very special prop names. If we wanted those primitive elements to work correctly, we had to use some very special name, a very specific name with a very certain spelling and capitalization. But in this case, you and I are adding in some props of our own. We're making these up on our own. These are not some predefined props. So I think that if I want to customize, say, the text right here that is displayed, maybe an appropriate name for that configuration option would be like title. So I think I will call this prop title. I'll then pass in some value for that property. So the first one could be forest, like so. So just to be clear, when you and I create a component, as we did right here, we can choose any prop name that we want. This could be title, or it could be text, or it could be image name, or whatever else. But I think title definitely makes some sense. Okay, so we can now save this. And then if we go back over to our image detail, we now have to receive that prop inside of here. So we've now essentially passed some information from the parent down to the child. Remember, when we pass information from a parent to the child, we're using that prop system. So it's going to show up as an object inside that child component. So inside of image detail, the first argument to this function will be our props object. Let's try doing a console log of that props object right now, just to see what it looks like. Okay, so I'll save this. I'll then go back to my image demo, and I'll check out my terminal and see what that console log is. Okay, so we see 4 separate console logs here. We see 4 separate console logs because I'm currently showing the image detail component 4 separate times. That means we are creating 4 separate copies of that component. The first one has a console log of an object that says title is forest. We see this because the first element that I placed of the image detail, I passed in a prop of title and I gave it a value of forest. I did not provide any other props to those other 3 copies, which is why we see an empty object here instead. Let's go back over to our image screen and add in some props to each of those. Then we can see an updated console log that hopefully will have a title property for each separate one. So back inside of image screen, I'm going to add in a title for the second one of beach, and then a title of mountain. And I think we'll just do 3 separate image details, so I'm going to delete the 4th one. Okay, so we now have 3 separate copies of image detail being created. Each one is going to have a very different and separate props object. Each copy of image detail that is created is 100% disconnected from the others, and they don't have any ability to really very easily communicate with each other. So we can really imagine that our image detail function right here is being executed 3 separate times. So let's now save this once again. I'm going to go back to my image demo to make sure those console logs actually get executed. And then once again, I'll check out my terminal. And here we go. So I now see the 3 separate console logs. Each one has a props object that has a title property and a value of forest, then beach, and then mountain. Once again, this prop system is how we configure a child component. The parent is going to pass down some data from the parent down to the child. So now that we've got this data inside the child, we can use this data to somehow customize the JSX that is returned. So back inside of image detail, we can now remove that console log. And rather than printing out some text right here of just show image of forest, we can replace it with a reference to that title property inside that props object. So inside of here, because we want to print out a JavaScript variable, we'll put in those curly braces, and then we can do props.title, like so. So let's save this one more time and test it out once again. Back inside of my emulator, I'll hit Go to Image Demo, And now we will see forest, beach, and mountain. Okay, so that's pretty much it. We're going to use this prop system to configure a child component several times, well, I should say many times inside this course. Every time that we want to configure or make a reusable component, we're going to configure it by passing some props into it from the parent component. So in this case, we're going to pass not only a title property down into image detail, we'll probably also eventually pass in an image property as well. And we'll specify exactly what image should be shown inside of each of these different image details. All right, now that we've seen an example of the prop system, let's come back in the next video and we're going to start to tackle showing those images.